Adobe Photoshop Fusion Photo Effect tutorial. Before we get started, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. Hello everyone, let's get started with this Fusion Photo Effect tutorial. Choose two pictures of the same subject, one slightly more zoomed than the other one. Remove the background from each photo and then create a new document and drag the cutout images onto the new document. Resize and position the two photos, and if you like, retouch the images before we get started. I'm going to rename the two layers right and left. Create a new fill layer for each one of the photos. Select the color you like. Clip each fill layer to its image. Change the blending mode to multiply. And if you like, you can add some adjustment layers. I've added a hue and saturation adjustment layer, and then I'm going to hold Control or Command while I click on my right image to select its shape, and then I'm going to color the selection black on the adjustment layer mask. Also, I've changed the blending mode. As I said, create a new fill layer for the second image and choose a different color. Clip it to the image as well. Change the blending mode to multiply. If you like, you can create more than one fill layer and clip it to the same subject. If you like, add some adjustment layers. I'm not going to at this point. And then import some foggy forest images. Drag them onto our project, resize and position them. When you're satisfied with their position, desaturate each one of these images, the foggy forest ones, and change their blending mode to screen. Use adjustment layers like curves and levels to optimize the contrast. Use layer masks to hide certain parts of the forest images. Create a new layer and use a black brush to go over the light parts of the image that you want to make darker. Obviously, change the blending mode, and if you like, lower the opacity. Import a marble texture. I have chosen a vector marble texture. Desaturate this image as well and change the blending mode to overlay. Add a curve adjustment layer and a level adjustment layer. Clip both of these layers to the texture layer. If you like, reduce the opacity a little bit. Import a nebula image, drag it onto our project, position it, and duplicate this layer. Change the blending modes, the first one to overlay and the second one to screen. Reduce the opacity on both of these layers to about 60%. Then import a nebula image again. You can use the same one or a different one, and position it over the eye of the left subject. Use a layer mask to hide the parts of the image we don't need. Change the blending mode to soft light and reduce the opacity to around 70%. At this point, we will work on the background a little bit. So import a texture, cover the whole document with it. Change the blending mode to multiply and reduce the opacity to around 50%. Hide the center of the texture using a mask, leaving the texture mostly on the edges and the angles of the image. Use adjustment layers like curves and levels to modify the intensity of the texture. Add more adjustment layers like color balance, vibrance, and curves. Only this time, do not clip them to any layer. When you're done, add a black and white gradient layer. Change its blending mode to soft light and reduce the opacity to around 30%. I'm going to go back to the eye nebula and fix it a second. Let's unite everything by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E, and then we will be going to Camera Raw Filter, and let's experiment with the values. When you're satisfied, press OK to close the window and duplicate your marble texture, or just add a different one. I added a different one, desaturate it, and change the blending mode to multiply and reduce the opacity to around 60%. Unite everything again by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E and go to Filter Liquify. Slightly deform parts of the image, like the hair, to help it blend in with the marble texture. We are arriving at the end of this tutorial. Import a star image, drag it onto our project, cover the whole document with it, change the blending mode to screen, and use a layer mask to cover parts of the face. As my final tips, I suggest to use the spot healing brush tool to quickly remove any imperfections on the skin, and also work on the eyes because they draw attention, and you can fix them by using adjustment layers, or you can try to add some colors to them. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you liked it, and leave any suggestions down in the comments. Thank you for watching.